Welcome to Taking Your Shot, the pathway to soccer success, presented by Maverick Goalkeeper Academy and the Rising Star College Bound program.
Today, we're really excited to bring to you Coach Steve Sampson. Coach Sampson has coached everything from high school to 2 different countries' full national teams. He's coached at Foothill Junior College, San Jose State University, UCLA, where he helped coach them to a national championship, Santa Clara, where he was the head coach, to an undefeated season and won a national championship. He's coached the U.S. men's national team in the 1994 World Cup, 1995 Copa America, 1998 Gold Cup, 1998 World Cup. He's the only manager to have beaten Brazil and Argentina in competitive play. He coached the Costa Rican national team. He was the head coach of LA Galaxy, where he helped lead them to win a U.S. Open Cup and MLS Cup championship. He has his bachelor's in human performance from San Jose State and his master's in education and a minor in Spanish from Stanford University. Some fun facts about Coach Sampson. He's the 5th American coach to have coached another country's national team. He's 1 in 16 American coaches to have coached another country's national team. He's one of 3 head coaches to have coached the U.S. men's national team before coaching another team's national team. So very excited to bring him on, a man who has a wealth of knowledge for us today, Coach Sampson. Coach Sampson, appreciate you meeting with me today. We've got a special treat for our listeners. We got Coach Steve Sampson, done everything. Coached professionally, coached 2 U.S. men's national teams. We can really dive into that a little bit later, but let's start with kind of how the team at Cal Poly is doing now. So currently you're the head coach of Cal Poly men's soccer team in San Luis Obispo. How the guys looking? I know they had a strong start to the preseason so far, and you just got done with practice. And how's the team looking?
So I like my team this year. I'm in my 8th year, but 7th season. 1 year we didn't play because of the pandemic, but each year we seem to be getting stronger and stronger and more experienced. And I really like my returning players, even though we've only got 4 or 5 seniors. But the returning players are coming back with a lot of experience and very mature. Nate Colley, our captain, is doing an exceptional job as a leader. And then we have, a number of young players from all over the country that have come in and really performing exceptionally well. They're competing, and sometimes you get freshmen, they come in and they sort of hold back, but these guys they're not holding back at all. They want to play. And my philosophy here at Cal Poly is that the best players play, regardless of what year you are. If everything is equal, then of course we give the nod to the upperclassmen, but for their loyalty and dedication to the program. But if a young man comes in and plays well, then he's going to get the nod to play, even as early in the season. So I'm really happy with where we're at right now. We beat Fresno Pacific, a very good Division II team, which is consistently in the playoffs, and then UNLV. Who has a new coach, and BJ Craig comes from Oregon State. It was a very well-organized team, a good test for us, a D1 team. We beat them 2-1, and now we have Santa Clara Broncos, which brings back, of course, a lot of memories. But Cam Rast and Eric Yamamoto and their entire staff are doing a great job, and they did quite well this last year, made it into the NCAAs, and I think are in the top 25 this year. And so it's going to be another really good test for us. Tomorrow night, Saturday night.
Excellent. So speaking of best players coming in and playing, you've been building the program over several years, and behind you there you have some of Mustang's greats. What are some of the characteristics that college coaches look for that when the athletes come in? So what are some of the things that the athletes can do to catch college coaches' attentions? And then follow-up question, once they're here, what do they need to do to prove themselves?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I would start as early as possible. So in your freshman year of high school, I would say the best thing you could possibly do is go to summer ID camps at universities that they have interest in attending. I would do your homework. Maybe start out with 8 to 10 universities that you're interested in, where you have a working knowledge of their soccer team, their staff. They play a style of soccer that you like. It's also academically a place where you want to go.
So definitely watch the team play.
Of course.
I think that's something that I run into with a lot of athletes that I've mentored is they want to go to a school like Cal Poly, but they've never seen me play. And there's lots of opportunities to watch you guys play live stream on the website, things like that.
Well, now that ESPN Plus has a contract with the NCAA, all college games are going to be on ESPN Plus. So there really is no excuse for not having the opportunity to watch any college that you want across the country that you have interest in. So I would start at ID camps. I would watch them, in your freshman, sophomore, and junior years. I would pick maybe 2 or 3 ID camps a summer to go to, and then start to narrow your choices as you go into your junior year. Because college coaches typically, for the top athletes in the country, they're making commitments to those individuals in their junior year, sometimes in their sophomore year.
Oh, wow.
Typically between the sophomore and junior year, and then most certainly, by just two critical periods in your junior year, right after the fall season, right after the fall collegiate season in December, and then June of their senior year. And then during their senior year, every November, the second week in November is National Letter of Intent Day. So commitments have to be made, by young men by that time, by players that we're interested in. Doesn't mean you can't sign a letter of intent after National Letter of Intent date, but most, I would say 80%, that even 90% of the top soccer players across the country have made a commitment by National Letter of Intent Day, November of their senior year.
And that's an interesting thing you said, start before as early as possible, because I know a lot of athletes that I've worked with, well, coaches can't talk to me until June 15th of my sophomore summer. And I tell them, okay, sure, they can't actively recruit you, but they can watch you play. So that you can send them videos, you can let them know that you're interested. But if you wait until June 15th, there's a whole list of 25 athletes that they're already interested in that are ahead of you at the time. Would you say that's about accurate?
Yeah, it is accurate. I mean, soccer is so fragmented now, and that college coaches have to use their budgets and their resources very wisely. So highlight videotapes sort of whets our appetite for a player. Send them in, probably in your sophomore year, and then do a follow-up highlight videotape early in your junior year, so that we can see your progress. But literally, I mean, the highlight videotapes, I would say, should be no more than 8 to 10 minutes. And I would show both the attacking side of your game and the defensive side of your game. Too often, for example, a player who's, say, a number 7 or a 9 or an 11 or even a 10, all they'll do is show you attacking pieces. Well, that's fine, but we also want to see how you organize yourself defensively. So I would make it a comprehensive videotape, but not too long. If you decide to put music to it, don't put anything too radical on there. But we would then, after we see the videotape, we would say, if we like you, then we physically go out and watch you play. So whether it's ECNL events or MLS Next events or national tournaments, we start to make our list and our priority list and our depth chart of players that we want to go out and watch. And you have to understand, I mean, only three coaches in a program are allowed to go out and recruit. So if you're on a field of 20 fields, 15 to 20 fields, I mean, how many games do you think that with three coaches that we could physically get out there and watch? Yeah. So we do our homework early on, sophomores, juniors, seniors. We know the list of players that we want to watch going into tournaments. And a lot of that is due to the fact of the quality communication that the recruit has made with us. Of course, the prospective student athlete wants to know that we're interested in them, but at the same time, we want to know that they're interested in us. So how you communicate with us is very, very important. And then if we like what we see with our own eyes, and we do it over an extended period of time, it isn't just one game. It probably is 3, 4, or 5 games that we watch our top recruits. Then we'll bring you in for an official visit. Then we start the communication process where we bring you in for an official visit, show you around school. Here at Cal Poly, we want you to feel comfortable with school, with the environment, with the coaching staff, with the players. And then if they like what they see and they're comfortable and thinking that they could be here for the next 4 or 5 years, then we make a financial offer to them. And typically at that point, the parents get involved and we start to finalize things.
That's interesting. So that's an interesting point you just made. You said, and then the parents get involved. And that's something I think is really important, is sometimes it can be nerve-wracking to talk to college coaches, but that's who you want to talk to, is the player, not the parents, because that's who's going to be here, right?
Well, the player from a soccer standpoint and from an academic standpoint, you want to make sure that it's the right fit. But parents are right, because if they're paying any money, to attend for their son to attend the college, then at some point we have to engage them. And I actually like to go into the home and measure the relationship between the player and the parents. I have this saying, "You are what the 4 walls around you are." And so if you're brought up in a very disciplined, loving environment where both the soccer and the academic piece are priorities, that will show when you go into the home. How the student athlete speaks to the coach is very important, or is the parent answering all the questions for the student athlete?
Yeah.
And vice versa. So you learn an awful lot when you go into the home. And I really encourage that you invite the college coach into the home. We also ask if we can come into the home. And it's all just part of the process of learning about the whole person, not just about the soccer athlete,
Yeah.
because we want to know what their character is, because we're going to be spending 4 or 5 years with this young man. And we want to know that this is a person that's going to represent himself, his family, his university, and his soccer team well. You don't want a situation, where the character is not right, or the expectations academically they can't fulfill. So here at Cal Poly, we take great pride in the quality of academics. So it has to be the right fit. And if they can we don't want to put them in a situation where they're not going to succeed. So we don't feel from a grade standpoint that they have the right background to come in here and succeed academically, then we probably won't recruit them. And that's pretty much true for Ivy League schools and places like Stanford and Cal, and the top schools in the country academically. Cal Poly tends to be one of those schools that is very demanding academically. But Stanford won 3 national championships a few years ago. There's no reason why, if you're disciplined, that you can't be a great student and a great soccer player at the same time.
Absolutely. I always tell my mentees that the academics are the passport towards the first thing you want to do. If you want a lot of opportunities in college, first start with getting your grades as high as they can. That's going to open the most amount of doors. And then from there, we can look at the talent and finances and social pieces and things like that. What would you say are 1 or 2 of the biggest mistakes a student athlete makes in the recruiting process that would deter a coach from continuing with them?
Not going to that institution and truly doing your research on that institution. I mean, if they're not invited in for an official visit yet, go on unofficial visits, go visit those schools. I mean, if you want to be close to home, then okay, then go to visit schools that are close to home. If you want to have experience away from home, then you have to make an effort to go to those schools. I would say probably one of the biggest mistakes is waiting too long to engage the coaching staff at the universities that you like. A lot of people think that, okay, even though, let's say they're playing for an MLS next team, right? And their exposure is great. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that there is a relationship between that student athlete and that coach. And there's so many good players out there right now, and so much quality. that you really have to do your best to make yourself known to that institution. Yes, if you're doing exceptionally well at an MLS academy team, there's also the possibility that college coaches might think, well, you only want to, work or get a contract with that USL team that's affiliated with that MLS team, or be in line for a contract, with a second team of that MLS team. And so we're sort of waiting to find out from that MLS team whether or not they're going to offer you a contract. Sometimes they wait too long.
Yeah.
You can start the process where you're both giving interest to colleges. At the same time, you're just honest and transparent with them and say, look, my priority is to be a professional soccer player. And if I get offered a contract, then that's the direction I'm going. No problem. In the meantime, let's establish a relationship such that if you don't get offered that contract, then we can bring you in immediately on an official visit. But we have built up a relationship with you already before that happens, where we can move things along pretty darn quickly. So waiting too long to engage the coaches that you're interested in attending those institutions, and then not going out and visiting those schools. The ID camps is such a great way to get to know the college coaches, because they can literally coach you, they can engage you, they can speak to you. We're able to, we typically do it on a Saturday and a Sunday. So we spend 2 days intimately looking at how you play under pressure. We can set the conditions under which we can put you under pressure to see how you respond, both in a training environment and in a game environment. So ID camps, literally for us, is one of the best ways to go.
Excellent. Now at the ID camps, would it be fair, like if an athlete after the camp asks you, hey coach, where do I kind of stand? Would you have enough picture of them, or would maybe you want to see them a little bit more down the line, games with their team?
Yeah, the ID camps again are just like a highlight video.
Gotcha.
Even though we've been able to see them with our own eyes, it sort of whets our appetite, to go out and watch that player play in their natural environment. So when they come in for an ID camp, they don't know the players that they're playing with. The relationships on the field are not the same as what they have with their club team. So we like to go out and watch them in a natural environment. We actually go early, the way we do it. Every college coach has their own way of doing things, but I like to go watch them warm up prior to a game. What's their attitude of when they arrive? Are they listening to the coach's instructions? Are they going through a proper warm up? How do they start off in a game? How are they dealing with the referee? Are they respectful to the opponent, but not overly respectful to the opponent? How do they deal with a goal scored against them, or even losing a game? How do they deal with listening to the coach at halftime? We watch all these things, and then after the game, win, lose, or draw, how are they behaving? I mean, are they respectful? Are they a leader? Are they engaging their coach and listening to the coach with his post-game comments? Are they taking care of their bodies? Are they doing the proper cool down? I mean, all these things are so very important to us, and we take notes on all of it.
Now that's interesting how they take care of their bodies and the total pieces. I mean, you've coached everything from started out in high school all the way up to 2 national teams, pro, college. You've been successful everywhere you've been. As far as taking care of their bodies, what are some of the things that these athletes should be looking to do if that's what their aspirations are, to play at the highest level they can achieve?
Well, having coached at the highest level, both at Costa Rica and the U.S. national team, there's some similarities of players that reach that level. One, they truly take care of their bodies. 2, they're always working on their game. They never feel as if they've arrived. They're always trying to perfect their game, whether it be technically or studying opponents, or tactically understanding the game a little bit better. They also have what I call balance in life. Some professional athletes that are married, I mean, sometimes they have a lot of stresses off the field. So managing all of those stresses off the field. College athletes managing their academics. If they fail a test or they're failing a class, how does that affect their on-field performance? And for some, it does affect them, and it affects them dramatically. Or let's say they're having a problem with a girlfriend, or they break up with a girlfriend. I mean, literally, we've had players here and at the other two institutions that I coached at Santa Clara University and UCLA, where they break up with a girlfriend. I mean, it's a dramatic time for them, and and it affects their game. You know, it takes some time to get out of that whole situation. So how they take care of their bodies off the field, how they gain balance in life, because you can't be so one-tracked, because eventually you'll get exhausted. Eventually, you know, you're going to need a break from the game. So I really encourage all my athletes, you know, go to the beach, go golfing, do something that you like away from the game, so that when it is time for you to focus on the game, that you can do what I call compartmentalize. When you cross that training line, start your training session, focus on that training session to become better every single day. When it's time for you to study, focus on studying. When it's time for you to go to class, get to class early, listen to what's going on in the class, only concentrate and compartmentalize on that class at that time. But also find time for you to have fun, find time for you to rest and relax and have balance in your life, because that helps all the other parts of everything else you've got going on.
Definitely, work-life balance is important. What would you say? So, taking care of their body, compartmentalizing, having work-life balance. What would be a few of the other traits that the best athletes you've ever coached all kind of shared?
Understanding how to deal with stress, how to deal with injury. I mean, every player at some point is going to be injured.
Yeah.
You know, so do they do absolutely everything possible with the trainers, with the doctors, with the strength and conditioning coaches to return to play quickly without compromising their health? Most great athletes don't want to be out of the starting lineup for very long, because they think that someone else is going to take their place. And a lot of times that is true. But how you take care of your body, I mean, Landon Donovan was a good example. And Landon, he would come into training with the LA Galaxy early. He would get a massage or treatment from our trainers. He would be the first one out on the pitch, on the soccer field for training. He would compartmentalize and be very, very disciplined during the training session and be very, very focused. And when all the rest of the players were excused and a lot of them were, you know, leaving and going home, he would be staying afterwards, working on his individual game. Then he would go back into the training room and get an ice bath, or again another massage from the training room. And he was one that was very, very particular about his diet. So, and then getting proper rest, you know, making sure that professional athletes, they go to training. Typically, they show up, they go to training, they eat, they sleep, they train again. Maybe they're getting in physical therapy or strength and conditioning programs, and then they go to bed at a reasonable hour and do it all again the next day. So Landon Donovan was a great example of someone that was exceptionally disciplined every single day in his approach. Did he like to have fun? Certainly, he took time to have fun as well. But maybe his definition of fun is different than other people's definition of fun.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that we can actually see that's unilateral between sports. You have Landon, you have Tom Brady, who's on a very limited diet. I think even vegan, no alcohol, and you see the longevity of his career, right? And that makes a huge difference, taking care of your body. As far as physical traits or soccer IQ, what would you say some of the best athletes they kind of shared? What was more valuable on the highest level, athleticism piece or ability to work within systems, or soccer IQ, the way they problem solved?
Yeah, great question. As you advance up the ladder and playing at higher and higher levels, it's all about athleticism, technical speed of thought. All those things need to be improved. Your technical ability under pressure of the opponent, your ability to always keep possession of the ball, your first touch of the ball, playing away from pressure. And then, of course, your fitness and your ability to, like you said, the longevity of your game, not only for the short term, but also for the long term. understanding and getting a really good feel for your body, knowing exactly when you need additional rest or when you need to push yourself. A lot of athletes in the off season, they take, the best athletes take a little bit of a break and then they start again. They start again and they build up again. The athletes that don't take it as seriously, maybe they take 4 or 5, 6 weeks off, and then it's a longer process for them to start up and get to the point where they are completely fit and ready to compete. But the best athletes are the one that don't stay away from the game or don't stay away from physical preparation of their body for too long. Yes, take a week off, go on vacation, take 2 weeks off, go on vacation, but then slowly start to build back, your timing, your fitness, your work with the ball. And again, guys like, maybe these are names that your listenership might not remember, but guys like Kobe Jones, guys like Claudio Reyna, who has a son, Gio Reyna, who plays for the national team. I mean, there's a reason why Gio Reyna is so very good playing for Dortmund. It's because he had a father that taught him the right way, to take care of body and prepare, from a technical and tactical standpoint. And now he's playing for Dortmund. But there's a player that's also been tested from an injury standpoint, so he's had to really pay attention to, not getting injured so quickly the next time.
Yeah.
Maybe not coming back too early, making sure that you're 100% before you do come back. So all of these things, play a massive part in the best players at the highest levels. But it's especially true even now for youth academy players, for example. They're playing a lot of games in a year.
They are, yeah.
And in the college games, sometimes we're playing 3 games in a week. If you're not taking care of your body in between, if you don't come in prepared and are physically fit for the season, and you think you could ease into the season, you're wrong. If you're an MLS player and if you think you can ease into the season, you're absolutely wrong. And even with the national team. So if you're a national team player and you're playing for your club team and you're playing 40, 50 games a year, right? And a lot of these players that are on the national team are coming from Europe and where they're playing that many games in a year. And on top of that, you're coming in and you're playing for the national team. You better know how to take care of your body. You better be communicating effectively with that head coach, with those trainers, with those doctors, so that you're not overdoing it even for the national team.
Yeah.
No, and this, if everyone watched the qualification phase, Gio Reyna came in from Dortmund. He wasn't 100%. But Greg Berhalter used him intelligently, brought him in typically in the second half, didn't overuse him. I'm sure he had an agreement with Dortmund to not overuse him, but it's in his best interest as well.
Yeah.
That he didn't overuse him. So again, communication with the coach, really important. Communication with the doctors and the trainers, really important. And being honest with yourself, right? And sometimes that's the biggest challenge for a soccer player, to be honest with yourself, because you always want to play, right?
Yeah.
Never put yourself in a position to where you can injure yourself and not be healthy for the long term. And the only exception to that is, let's just say that you're at 80 or 90%, and now you've got a qualification game, and it means the difference between you going to the World Cup or not, or a college game, whether it means you getting into the playoffs or not, or it's an NCAA game. Maybe a player at 80, 90% is better than another player at 100%. And that's a decision that a coach makes, but only in cooperation with the trainers, the doctors, and the student athlete.
And that's where that X factor comes into play, right? Also as the athlete, you're 89, 95%, and you know that you can contribute to the team. That's where you kind of have to dig deep and be that special player. And not everyone has that.
Not everyone has the mentality to be able to play through pain. And at some point, every athlete, no matter what level they're at, has to make a decision whether or not it makes sense for them to play through that pain or not.
And I'm talking about the difference between being hurt and an injury. Obviously, an injury being very serious, and we should never encourage someone to play with a crack, a hairline fracture. But a bruise is much different, right? a shin bruise is much different.
It's different. And so we have a player right now that has tendonitis in his ankle. And it's very painful. Tendonitis can be very painful. So he has to make the decision because only complete rest will solve the problem of tendonitis. Does he play with a certain amount of pain, or does he rest it completely and come back at 100% maybe in a week or 2 weeks later? Well, we're now at the beginning of the season where we're defining who our starters are, who are the top 16, 17, 18 players who are going to contribute to the team. And so he's probably thinking that if I don't play, even though I have to play through this pain, I won't have a chance to be a significant contributor to this team. And there's a lot of truth to that, you know. So only that student athlete can make that informed decision. We never, ever want to put a player in a position where their health is compromised. And that's why only quality communication between the player and the coach can help solve those problems. And I tell my athletes, the instant you get sick, the instant you get injured, I want to know about it. Let us both collaborate to make the decision as to whether you're going to train on that day or what you're going to do for the next few days, or if you're going to take some time off, you know, to get back to being 100%.
And I think that's something that there's not enough resources for at the youth game, right? You know, maybe at the MLS next level, they probably have some athletic trainers that are accessible to the kids. In high school, you might have an athletic trainer, but the cooperation may or may not be there with the coach. That might also be a learning curve at the college game that they have to adjust to. With MLS Next, how important is that to be recruited? Do you recruit all places, or do college coaches tend to gravitate towards that highest level?
Great question. I think any program that wants to vie for winning a national championship will recruit at the highest levels. I mean, we're even finding now where coaches are traveling to Asia, to Europe, to look for international players. There's now representatives in Europe that put together combines of players that have not been offered professional contracts but want to come to the United States, continue their soccer career while also getting an education and getting a college scholarship. So you're finding now that the competition for the American players is now much more difficult because a lot of programs are now looking overseas to bring in players. One thing that I think that players here in the United States should give consideration to is maybe taking a gap year after their senior year. If they don't think that the right fit or that they've had the right opportunity or the best opportunity to be recruited, maybe a gap year where it allows them to get a little bit more mature, both psychologically, emotionally, and physically, will make them a little bit stronger candidate for a top college team. Because what's happening is that a lot of programs, I would say, in the top 60 programs in the country, I would say at least a third to a half of all of the student athletes now are foreign players.
Oh, wow.
You know, the European players tend to be slightly more mature than the American player. It's not always the case. But they've been through the rigors over there a little bit more at a younger age in life. So college coaches like the fact that they get more mature players when they're coming in. But we also find those players here in the United States as well. So the best programs have those players. If you're not playing for a club that has a lot of exposure to the top tournaments, to the top competitions, doesn't mean that you're not a great player and can't play for one of the top colleges in the country. It's just you have to do a better job of getting your name out there and promoting yourself, and then getting that college coach interested in you. ECNL here, you know, there's some outstanding players in ECNL that maybe because of geography can't even try out or play for an MLS team.
Yeah.
But that they still play at a very, very high level. So make sure that you're involved in a club that goes to the top tournaments in the country, because you get great exposure there. Outside of that, again, you know, I've had some real creative ways of student athletes communicating with me, sending Federal Express packages.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it's not an email. So
Yeah.
they literally send a federal success package and think, well, I'm not going to open that. So literally, I'm looking at, a resume of a kid, and they put a flash drive in there, where we can watch the video, and it's creatively done.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a way of doing it.
That's amazing. I don't think I'd be able to pass up the opportunity. I'd say, hey, if they went through all this trouble, I got to at least take a look, right?
It's impressive. If someone sends you, let's just say that they're going to a top tournament, they send you a postcard, say, hey, coach, I'm playing for so-and-so team, I'm number whatever, I'm very interested in your program. Can you come by and watch me play? Well, most of us have already done our homework, but that's impressive.
Yeah.
They got to the trouble of sending a postcard or a Federal Express package, to get the attention of the coach. I mean, you have to be creative in the ways of getting the attention of the coach.
That's amazing. I've never heard that one before. So that's good. We also have a lot of coaches out there that listen, and for me, I'd like to know a little bit more about your pathway. So, you started out. What got you started into coaching?
Well, it started as a player when I was 8 years old. I was introduced to the game during a summer camp in Palo Alto, Northern California, and I used to play all sports: football, basketball, baseball, but soccer was one that really impressed me because it was more of a player's sport. Not a lot of timeouts. In fact, no timeouts at all. I mean, you literally, you get taught during the week. Coaches decide who their starting lineup. Maybe they say a few words prior to a game, maybe a few changes at halftime. But for the most part, it's the decision of the players on the field that really makes the difference in an outcome of a game. And I fell in love with that. I absolutely fell in love with that. I had some very, very good coaches and very good mentors as I was growing up, that were truly passionate about the sport. And for me, when I was finishing my playing career, the old North American Soccer League had this rule where they had to have at least one American on the field at all times. There wasn't a lot of opportunity for 18 to 23-year-old Americans to play at the highest levels, to play professional soccer in the United States at that time. Thank God those things have changed now.
Yeah.
And I feel very privileged to have been part of that whole process. But because I didn't become a professional player, I really wanted to prepare myself to be a great coach. So I've coached at the junior high level, high school, junior college, collegiate Division I, ODP, Olympic Development Program, regional staff, and then professionally. I mean, every single level I've coached at, and had really fortunate for me, I had very good athletes, to work with, and had a lot of success. So I absolutely loved it. But I also went to Stanford University to get my master's degree because I wanted to continue to prepare myself academically.
In education and minor in Spanish, correct?
Correct. And so after I got my master's at Stanford in education, I went to UCLA to become the assistant coach under Ziggy Schmidt there. And I had played at UCLA as a freshman coming out of Homestead High School in the Bay Area, and was very fortunate to be able to work with Ziggy for 4 years. Ziggy was an exceptional coach and one of my mentors, and I learned so much from him. I was assistant coach when we won the national championship at UCLA, their first national championship there. Then I had the opportunity to go to Santa Clara, and as a head coach, and to start making my own decisions and being responsible for those decisions. 4 years later, we won a national championship there, a co-championship with Virginia, and we went 20-3 and finished first in both polls.
Bruce Arena
was the head coach of Virginia. Yeah, Tony Miolo was in goal, and in fact, a lot of those players that played for Virginia eventually played for me on the national team.
Wow.
Right. So, and then I had the opportunity after that to go work for the World Cup organizing committee. So on the administrative side, I was very fortunate. I was head of the national teams committee and the chairman of the co-chairman of the coaching committee in 1991 and 92. Was the outlying sports coordinator and competition director for the Olympic Games in 1984 in Los Angeles. So all these years I've had a great opportunity to work on the business and the administrative side as well as the coaching side. And then in 1993, the opportunity to work with Bora Milutinovic, who has coached 8 national teams, and I can't tell you how fortunate and what an advantage it was for me and what an honor it was for me to be his assistant. And then eventually to be an interim national team coach, and then eventually the full-time national team coach, and to qualify the team 1 point behind Mexico, the qualification for 98 France. Along the way, getting to the semifinal of the Copa America, beating Chile and Argentina and Mexico, losing eventually to Brazil 1-0 in the Copa America in 1995, and then coming back in 1998 and beating Brazil. And it was the first time in official competition, and it remains the only time that the United States has beaten Brazil in official competition. And so during my tenure with that national team, we beat both Argentina and Brazil. And so that was incredibly special. We got the first point, qualification point away, playing against Mexico in Azteca Stadium. First time ever we had gotten a point in that stadium in a qualification phase.
Now, if I may, in that time, so you went from getting your education to being an assistant to head coach. How did you develop your philosophy to the national team? And you had some time in between. Did it change a lot, your personal philosophy as you're going through? What were some of the influences that shaped that?
Well, yes. You know, as a young coach, you know, you think you have all the answers, but you really don't. And so literally people like Terry Fisher, who was a coach at UCLA, Earl Montgomery, who was my high school coach at Homestead High School, George Vakian, who was a great coach at Foothill Junior College, helped shape me. People like Bora Milutinovic, great opportunity to work with him and to see how he operates, and then the exposure of working with the national team on a full-time basis for 2.5 years for the '94 World Cup. And then other coaches, studying other teams, and really what I try to do is I try to take the best from each one of those individuals that were my mentors, and then impose my own personality and my own personal style to make it unique to me. And I feel like I've had, for the most part, some incredible success doing it that way. When I went to Costa Rica, I had to sort of reinvent myself, because dealing with Costa Ricans is completely different than dealing with Americans. So that was a challenge. And then coming back and dealing with a great mix of foreign and domestic American players, with the LA Galaxy winning the MLS Cup and the US Open Cup in the same year in 2005. Hasn't been done since then, which was fantastic. That was an incredible experience. And then on top of that, really having the opportunity to do color commentating in both English and in Spanish for World Cups, for Gold Cups, for Copa Americas, for European Championships, both in Mexico and here in the United States. And when Cal Poly finishes its season this year, God willing, I don't go to Qatar, because that means that we've gone all the way to the national championship game. But if our season gets cut short, then I'm immediately going to work with Football de Primera in Qatar.
Oh, fantastic.
And so every single summer I work with Football de Primera, and I get close to the professional and the international game again. So I have this opportunity, this really unique opportunity, to work with some phenomenal coaches and former players that are commentators, that understand the game at the highest levels, and then to be able to observe, not just via television, but firsthand in the stadiums, how current teams are playing. What tactics are they using? What are the current trends? and then apply it and have the opportunity to apply it to your own team is really a blessing, you know. So I continue to have those opportunities, and until they kick me out, I'm going to continue to do it, because it is probably, I mean, working with the quality of professionals that I do in all of those top events, it challenges you. Everyone thinks that, you know, these color commentators and these play-by-play announcers, you know, that it's such an easy job. It's not an easy job. It's a lot of work to study. In fact, it's harder than coaching, because the instant the game is over and you've got a game, the next day you're studying that team's tendencies, their opponent's tendencies, who's injured, who's not injured. Because if you don't speak intelligently over the airwaves, you know, people quickly, you know, find you out. And it's very important for me to be well educated about what I say over the air. I have this unique opportunity that most college coaches and most professional coaches don't have.
Always studying the game, student of the game.
Student of the game is so very important for current players, for any players. Don't just be an observer. You know, if you love Man United, or if you love Man City or Chelsea, don't just be a fan of the game. Study that game. Understand why they're making certain decisions that they do on the field, why they're making certain substitutions. Why is a team doing so very well? Why is a team not doing so very well? I tell all my players, pick out 2 or 3 players at the highest level and watch them play with a very, very keen eye. And ask yourself the question, why are they making that run? Why are they showing into that space? What are they doing with the ball when they receive it? What is, you know, their approach to the game? How do they take care of themselves? How do they prepare for matches? You know, and there's so much information on the internet now through YouTube or through, you know, video replays, that there's so many opportunities for you to continue to be a student of the game.
Last question, same model. And so for high schoolers with ESPN now covering the games, they can actually watch the university that they want to go to, watch the player in their position, start thinking about those things.
100%. And, you know, the high school coaches and the club coaches at the youth level really need to encourage their players to be students of the game. If they have a team, a professional team or a college team in the area, go watch those games, right? Make sure it's a style of soccer that you want to play for, right? Get to know those players intimately. If you have a professional team in your area, go watch them train. I mean, most of their training sessions are open to the public. Go watch them play, right? And don't just be a fan of the game, but be a student of the game. And that's only going to help in your preparation to be great at the next level.
Excellent. Well, that's Steve Sampson, the head coach of Cal Poly men's soccer. Thanks, Coach.
My pleasure.
Thank you for watching Taking Your Shot, the pathway to soccer success.